Arirang Special.
The special concern be shown for the poor, the vulnerable, and those who have no voice, not only by meeting their immediate needs, live together in peace and friendship, overcoming barriers, healing divisions, rejecting violence and prejudice.
Nel suo nome vengo a voi, nella gioia di condividere con voi il Vangelo dell'amore e della speranza.
On August 14th, Pope Francis arrived in Korea for a 5-day visit. Upon his arrival, the first thing he brought up was peace and forgiveness.
이번에 교황님 방한을 계기로 우리 국민들에게 따뜻한 마음의 따뜻한 위로가 전해지고 분단과 대립의 한반도에 평화와 화해의 새치가 열리기를 바라는 마음입니다.
마음속에 그 깊이 간직하고 오셨답니다.
Mirroring the Pope's humble qualities, no extravagant welcoming events were held for him. The first citizens the Pope confronted upon his arrival were the bereaved families of the victims of the Seoul ferry sinking.
Rescató a sus alumnos dando su vida.
Yo llevo mucho en el corazón a los que han muerto y a todos sus familiares.
마음속에 깊이 간직하고 있답니다. 가슴이 아프시다고요. 그 희생자들 기억하고.
Pope Francis reaches out to the neglected and the wounded. This shows his way of lowering himself to the suffering, and thus he starts the first leg of his trip. A number of the Pope's actions surprised the Korean people. The Pope's official vehicle for his stay was Kia's 1,600cc compact car, the Soul. It's the smallest and cheapest vehicle for stay guests. This was what the Pope had requested.
행사 자체도 검소한 그런 행사를 지향하는 그런 뜻에서 국산차를 요청하셨고요. 가능하면 작은 차를 타면 좋겠다라고 말씀하신 바 있습니다.
At the Vatican, Pope Francis is usually driven around in a Ford Focus or 30-year-old Renault. Instead of riding in an imposing vehicle with bulletproof windows, the Pope is closer to believers because he sat in such a compact car. From the air base, Pope Francis is driven to the Vatican embassy located in Kungjeongdong, Seoul. The pontiff stayed at the embassy during his visit. His room at the embassy was about 20 square meters and was equipped with only the necessities: a bed, a wardrobe, and a table. The room was chosen in consideration of the Pope's simple lifestyle. Pope Francis' decision broke away from a tradition that lasted over a century. The reason was simple enough. It was because of his belief that he needs to be amongst people and live with them. The pontiff attended an official welcoming event held at Cheongwade, the presidential office. He finished his talks with President Park Geun-hye and gave his first speech in Korea.
이번 교황님의 방한이 오랜 분단의 상처를 치유하고 한반도의 희망의 통일 시대를 열어가는 소중한 계기가 될 것으로 믿습니다. 핵 없는 통일 한반도를 이루는 것이야말로 교황님을 비롯해서 평화를 사랑하는 전 세계인의 염원이라고 믿습니다.
What kind of a message would the Pope deliver? Korea and the world hung on his every word.
Peace is not simply the absence of war, but the work of justice. And justice, as a virtue, calls for the discipline of forbearance. It demands that we not forget past injustice, but overcome them through forgiveness, tolerance, and cooperation.
The world focused on Pope Francis' visit to Korea. The pontiff wrapped up his first day in the nation by meeting with the Korean episcopate at the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Korea in Chunggok-dong, Seoul. August 15th is the second day of the pontiff's visit to Korea. Tens of thousands of people from all over the nation gathered at the Daejeon World Cup Stadium for the Mass of the Assumption of Mary. People began queuing from around 4 in the morning, and believers were still streaming in at 8 a.m.
새벽부터 나온다고 조금 힘들었는데요. 그래도 굉장히 오늘 정말 기대하고 기다리고 있습니다. 제일 기대되는 거는 교황님을 제 눈으로 직접 뵈는 거죠.
At that moment, a unique car procession began from the Vatican embassy to Seoul Station. The pontiff opted against taking a helicopter which had been arranged and decided instead to take a high-speed train to Daejeon. The Pope rode in a first-class seat and the other 3 VIP cars were left empty for security purposes. Around 500 passengers were in the train's 14 other carriages. The Pope declared he would meet many neighbors in Korea and showed that through his actions. His surprising moves continued in Daejeon. A Korean-made SUV vehicle has been modeled into an open car known as the Popemobile, and the Pope rode it to the stadium. The pontiff stopped the car 8 times along the way. He stopped when he saw children in the massive crowd of people who had been waiting to welcome him. In particular, he confronted the bereaved families of the victims of the Sewol ferry disaster by wearing a yellow ribbon at his first Mass in Korea.
We especially entrust to her all who lost their lives in the sinking of the Sewol ferry, as well as those who continue to be affected by this great national disaster. May the Lord welcome the dead into His peace, console those who mourn, and continue to sustain those who so generously came to the aid of their brothers and sisters.
Pope Francis stressed the need to take care of the weak and to never lose hope. At 5 p.m. on the same day, Pope Francis paid a visit to Sorme Shrine in Tangjin City, Chungcheongnam-do Province. The word Sorme is a pure Korean word that means a cluster of pine trees that form a small hill. One of the reasons this place became a sacred place for the Catholic Church is because it is the birthplace of Korea's first priest, Saint Andrew Kim Dae-gon. Pope Francis spent some time admiring the portrait of Saint Andrew Kim Dae-gon that was hanging in the living room. He bowed his head, prayed and crossed himself before turning around. Later, Pope Francis attended the opening Mass of the 6th Asian Youth Day to meet young people from 23 Asian countries. Around 6,000 Catholics, including 4,000 from 16 Korean Catholic dioceses and young people from 23 Asian countries, were waiting for the Pope's arrival. One of the reasons Pope Francis decided to visit Korea was to meet with young people. The Pope gave up his own vacation for his visit to Korea.
Together with young people everywhere, you want to help build a world that we are live together in peace and friendship, overcoming barriers, healing divisions, rejecting violence and prejudice.
A question and answer session was held with the Pope. The young people expressed their worries and concerns during the session. One young man from Hong Kong requested a selfie with the pontiff. Pope Francis was happy to oblige.
This is my selfie with a Pope. Of course, this is my lucky chance, but I believe that Papa will selfie to everyone.
Pope Francis has a lot of compassion for young people. The events for the day come to an end, but the Pope promises to meet them again at the closing Mass. On August 16th, the first place Pope Francis visited was the Sosomon Martyr Shrine located at the Chunggu district of Seoul. Everyone held their breath as the Pope prayed. He prayed for all of the lay people who lost their lives here. The Sosomon Martyr Shrine, also known as the Westgate Martyr Shrine, is Korea's largest martyr site that turned out the 44 religious saints, and it is a sacred place. It's seen as a global Catholic shrine because of the special traits of Korean Catholicism. Catholicism in Korea has been filled with mass persecution and consequent martyrdoms throughout its history. In 1791, Paul Yunji-chung, a member of a noble Korean family who had converted to Catholicism, refused to bury his mother according to the traditional Confucian rituals, which were the most widely followed at the time. His refusal led to his execution. There were 4 cases of mass persecution in the country over a century-long period, which claimed the lives of tens of thousands of Catholic believers. The beatification ceremony is the biggest event during Pope Francis' visit to Korea. He was to beatify 124 missionaries who protected their religious faith with their lives. 17,000 Catholics were officially invited to the beatification ceremony. There were 5,000 volunteers, 2,800 press members, and around 30,000 police officers standing by for security reasons. Thousands of people attended the ceremony to see Pope Francis.
그냥 스쳐가는 것만으로도 되게 마음이 뭉클하고 좀 말로 형용할 수 없어요.
The most impressive moment was an unexpected move by the pontiff. He stepped down from the Popemobile and consoled the families of the victims of the Seoro ferry sinking.
다시는 이런 참사가 일어나지 않게 특별히 제정될 도와주시고 오드라 베 잊어버리지 말아주십시오. 세월호.
있는 동안 아버지께서 저에게 주신 이름으로.
This ceremony was significant in that the Pope himself led the beatification ceremony.
Di ritornare ai primi momenti, agli arbori della Chiesa in Corea.
After the beatification ceremony, Pope Francis visited Korea's largest welfare facility, Kotdongnae in Eumseong, Chungcheongbuk-do province. There, he spent more time than scheduled and showed a special interest in meeting the disabled. The pontiff was greeted with open arms and took his time blessing each and every devotee at the facility.
꿈만 꿨어요. 실제로 보니까 되게 할아버지 같고.
After completing his activities in Kotdongnae, the pontiff's itinerary for his fourth day began at the Hemi Martyrdom Holy Ground in Seosan, Chungcheongnam-do province. The Pope spent the whole of August 17th at Hemi Martyrdom Holy Ground in Seosan, Chungcheongnam-do province. The Hemi Upsong fortress was the gateway to the central region in the 18th century. 6,000 participants from 23 different countries, including Korea, had high expectations for the Pope's message.
It is the duty to be vigilant, not to allow the pressures, the temptations, and the sins of ourselves or others to dull our sensibility to the beauty of holiness, to the joy of the gospel.
Monday, August 18th, is the final day of the Pope's 5-day visit. Many citizens had gathered at Seoul's Myeongdong Cathedral since the early hours. People from all over the country gathered to catch a final glimpse of the Pope. The last day of Pope Francis' visit started off with a meeting with leaders of 12 religious groups. Though all of them have different religious beliefs, Pope Francis told them to acknowledge one another as brothers and walk on the same path. He called for religious harmony.
Por eso les agradezco a ustedes este gesto de caminar juntos. Somos hermanos, nos reconocemos como hermanos y caminamos juntos. Que Dios nos bendiga. Y por favor les pido que recen por mí.
9:45 a.m., the leaders of different religious groups attend Pope Francis's final Mass in Korea. Right before the Mass, Pope Francis made a point of tightly holding the hands of Korean women who were forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese military before and during World War II. Pope Francis adorned a butterfly badge that was given to him by the elderly women. The badge symbolizes freedom. With his tightly clasped hands, the Pope let love and comfort flow. His kindness affected the former sex slaves very deeply.
그러니까 관심이 많으시는 것 같아요. 굉장히 저희들 문제에 관심이 많으셔가지고 평화적으로 해결해 주시리라고 믿습니다.
Pope Francis soothed the wounds of the women forced into sexual slavery. Like this gesture, the pontiff reaches out to those who are underprivileged and suffering and carefully listens to what they say.
Prima di lasciare la Corea, vorrei ringraziare la signora Presidente della Repubblica, Park Geun-hye.
The Pope stressed that we must care for those who are in pain and those who are neglected. He felt the pain of the nation, as Korea is the only country that is still divided.
Un'esperienza di divisione e di conflitto che dura da oltre 60 anni, ma il presente invito di Dio alla conversione chiama anche i seguaci di Cristo in Corea.
The Pope is very kind to the weak, but is firm with the strong. To political leaders, he stressed the need for communication.
Common goal of progress as development must ultimately be in human and not merely in economic terms.
He stressed to the priests to be good examples and be poor but honest.
Quegli uomini e donne consacrati che professano il voto di povertà e tuttavia vivono da ricchi, ferisce le anime dei fedeli e danneggia la Chiesa.
He showed us how we can be a ray of hope to brighten up the path for the neglected in a dark society.
Not like those who push away people who make demand on us, as if serving the needy.
Pope Francis's visit to Korea focused the minds on peace, forgiveness, and selflessness. The Pope delivered a message of love during his 98-hour stay in Korea. His gestures and messages will be remembered for a long time.